content presented in this podcast is based on real events and may contain graphic descriptions of violence, sensitive topics, and explicit language that may be triggering, offensive, or sensitive subjects to some viewers and listeners. Discretion is advised. The purpose of this podcast is to explore and discuss true crime cases for entertainment and educational purposes only. This podcast does not intend to glorify or sensationalize crime, but rather aims to analyze and understand the complexities of human behavior in the criminal justice system. We encourage listeners to approach this content with empathy, critical thinking, respect for the victims and their families. Glitz, glamour, and lies. Oh my! Behind Hollywood's red carpet and flashing cameras lurks a world most will never see, where secrets are currency and deception is an art form. But for one man, peeling back the illusion wasn't just a job. It was a way of life. Now, Fred Wolfson was a private investigator who uncovered the truth behind Tinseltown's biggest scandals, from tracking down cheating celebrities to rescuing kidnapped children. His cases read like a blockbuster script, except these stories actually happened. How did one man become the go-to fixer for rock stars, TV icons, and the world's elite? And what secrets did he uncover that Hollywood never wanted you to know? Let's get ready for some juicy gossip. It's time to start the show. Let's hit it. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Mysteries, Mayhem Merlot. I am your host, Winnie Schrader, and tonight I wanted to touch on a topic that's kind of a guilty pleasure of mine, and that's celebrity gossip and tabloids and scandals and things like that. You always want to know what's going on behind the curtain, and whether you believe it or not, it kind of gives you the sense of, at least for a brief moment, that your life isn't that bad. So, but tonight's topic, I wanted to talk about some of those untold, juicy Hollywood stories, some of the wildest scandals and the most jaw-dropping cases that from behind the scenes of Tinseltown that you would never even think of. So tonight I have author Burl Barer, who wrote the book Secrets of Hollywood's Private Eye, and it's not just a Hollywood tell-all; it's the real deal, straight from the case files of legendary private investigator Fred Wolfson. Now, he kind of was a private eye for rock stars like the Rolling Stones and other TV celebrities, just stone cold con men and high stakes kidnappings. Wilson had seen it all, whether it was tracking down cheating spouses or outsmarting greedy scammers or even pulling off a daring rescue. His career had been packed with twists and turns that rival any crime drama. That's why he sought out Edgar Award winning author Burl Barer to write his book, Secrets of Hollywood's Private Eye, a rollicking, no holds barred expose on Tinseltown. Now, Burl Barer is regarded as one of America's finest investigative journalists and is a frequent commenter on many true crime podcasts as well as documentaries, and commented and commentaried on programs like USA Today and Good Morning America. Now, Burl also is an award-winning radio show host for True Crime Uncensored on outlawradiolive.com every Saturday at 2 p.m. Pacific time. And it's available on iTunes, Spotify, and numerous other podcast platforms as well. And he has written many books, which I'll have all those links in today's program guide. Welcome to the show, Burl.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
But the book that you wrote, Secrets of Hollywood, The Private Eye, how did you get connected with Fred Wolfson, and just kind of that, and what kind of, did he seek you out to write his story for him?
Well, that's a strange answer to a strange question. He actually got hold, or I got hold of him through an ad like a back page or Eros or something like that. Uh, he was looking for someone to help put his manuscript together. It sounded interesting. I gave him a call and got together. We hit it off right away. And he had these incredible, strange stories. And I found out things that I didn't realize. For example, National Enquirer is very honest. He don't make stuff up because a long time ago they used to get sued for making stuff up. So they fact check everything. So if it's in the
Oh,
National Enquirer, it's true. And I always thought it was the other way around. And Fred worked for the
yeah.
Enquirer, doing research and writing stories, in addition to being a very respected, well-paid private eye. And
Okay.
he private eye to the stars, from the Rolling Stones to Roseanne Barr's husband, Tom Arnold, who's one of the
Yeah.
straight we could talk about if you like.
Yes, for sure. I am a fan of the Roseanne show. I grew up with Roseanne, so I know the issues that those two had back in the day. So, what would be the reason why the Rolling Stones would? Who is hiring him? Is somebody
Oh
hiring him to watch the Rolling Stones? Is that
no, the
kind of
Rolling
his
Stones
job?
hired him because someone stole the lead guitar player that used to be in Faces. Not not Keith Richards, he's rhythm, but lead guitar player stole his diamond-studded jeans, and Fred was hired to find the jeans and get it back.
He hired a private
I
investigator to
studded
find his
and
studded jeans.
which amazingly enough he did. It wasn't that
Oh,
difficult a
he got
case, but it's kind of amusing. The Rolling Stones hired a Hollywood private eye get those jeans back.
That's hilarious. I love it. Okay, so people are hiring him to do things. Now the jobs that they hired him to do was it specifically for a reason, and like the stories that he got gave to you, were those things just cuz he was there and saw this stuff happening, or
Well,
was this part of his cases that he was investigating?
I'll give you an example of the way things get weird in Hollywood when you're dealing with a private eye.
Okay.
Arnold, because Tom Arnold called it. He shows up, and this is when he and Roseanne were together. They're recently married, and Tom's wearing underwear with parts hanging out, and he says, "Very important subject. Someone sold my love letters to Roseanne to the tabloids, National Enquirer, I think." Says
Okay.
that I need to know who stole my love letters and who sold them because this is a really an invasion of my our privacy, our romance, and I want to know who did this.
Okay.
Well, Fred went to work, uses all of his skill, all of his talents. There were several suspects, but he got to the bottom of it, found out who did it and who got paid. And the answer is Tom Arnold. Tom Arnold sold his own love letters to Roseanne Barr, and then demanded that someone find out who sold his love letters, not thinking
Why
that Fred would actually
would
find out who did it. And it was him.
oh my that was not smart. No,
But
no.
that's
You
pretty
know,
typical of the kind of stuff that goes on in Hollywood. Find out who did this.
really?
Uh,
Well,
I mean, people
that
are
doesn't even make
strange. Some people are stranger than others.
yeah.
Another well-known
Okay.
Hollywood producer hires Fred to find out, ensure that his wife is cheating on him. He's absolutely
Okay.
convinced. Well, so Fred does all this surveillance on the guy's lovely wife and tracks all of her movements. Where she goes, she has a fitness trainer. The fitness trainer is gay and has no interest in doing anything with this guy's wife. And goes to the guy and says, "Listen, your wife is 100% faithful. She's not cheating on you." But he finds the husband is cheating with the trainer.
Was he shaking? I wonder about you sometimes, Henry.
Oh, that's hilarious.
It's like,
You're shooting yourself in the foot. Why what are you doing?
now, some of the cases that Fred did are either heartbreaking or heartwarming. One
Yeah.
is, I guess it's heartwarming in a heartbreaking sort of way, is a father hires Fred to find his runaway daughter.
Okay.
And he finds her, and she's working on the streets of Hollywood as shall we say, a woman of a high risk lifestyle. He winds up setting up a date for her with a client. That's how he would get reunited with her. He didn't date her, of course, but that's how the only way he could, you know,
Yeah, it's sad that he had to go that route to connect with
yeah,
his daughter.
yeah. And when she sees him, he says, "This is the only way I could find you." She breaks down in tears and hugs him, and they all, everything worked out. They got reconciled, and everything was fine there. Also,
Wow.
Fred went to, and I used this true story in a fiction novel in the Saint series. Roger Moore played about TV, famous Simon Templar. Uh,
Mhm.
I wrote a novel in that series called Capture the Saint, and a follow-up novel that hasn't been published yet, but hopefully this year, where I actually put Fred Wolfson in the novel and told his story. He went to, we changed the country, he went to Brazil in real life to rescue kidnapped children who were being trafficked. They flew to, the kid had a tracking device on him. The kid had been kidnapped by the housekeeper, taken to
Okay.
Brazil, flew down there, not only rescued that child, but all of the children. And with
Wow.
the criminals who were running this child abduction ring chasing them, they got the kids on their private plane and took off with the bullets flying, flew back to the USA, and reunited the stolen children with their parents.
Oh, thank goodness. That is a wonder. I mean, it's tragic, but the ending of it is the
Yeah,
majority of the times parents do not get reunited with their missing children. It's just
I
as
mean,
common as we
the
know.
thought of having a child kidnapped is terrifying enough. And
Oh, I
you don't
know.
often think of private detectives, except on TV, doing truly heroic things such as what Fred
Right.
did in that situation, which was true heroism at great risk to his own
Right.
life, that he saved those
Yeah.
kids and flew them out of Brazil. A forthcoming Saint novel, I have the Saint and Fred Wolfson doing it in a fictional Central American country.
Oh, that's cool. And that's cool. I like it when authors like to take something that's true, like a story, an event that happened, and put it into a fictional narrative. Because I've said this many times before, even with true crime, it helps you kind of absorb what's going on with the characters and not just like facts, facts, facts all the time. And I think it just kind of puts the reader in the shoes of whatever's happening, like the event that happened. And it just, I like
Now,
how when people do that, and I find it creative as well.
one of the most fascinating stories in the book, Secrets
Mhm.
of a Hollywood Private Eye, takes place right after the Rodney King riots here in Los Angeles, which many
Okay.
people remember.
Hmm.
And a fellow got hit in the head with a fire extinguisher or a brick or something, and got dragged out of his truck. And we guys, I've never seen it on TV. The Damon Williams hit the guy in the head with a fire extinguisher or something, and there was a big trial. Well, Fred had was hired by the police in the original Rodney King trial, and
Okay.
then he was contacted by the Center for Constitutional Law and Justice, I believe the name of it was. It was a new organization founded here in Los Angeles. It was actually, and people don't know this story, was a giant scam. The guy who was running it was not even an attorney. He was using a fake name, and he was sent in to create more problems and more racial tension than there already was as a political move to help the law and order candidates. Uh, and they wanted to hire Fred to help with the defense case of, I think David Williams was the fellow who was arrested. And the Center for Constitutional Law and Justice was going around and uh, trying to sign up many people in the black community who were uh, having trouble with the police and providing uh, free legal advice and free representation. But there was they weren't really doing it. It wasn't until
Yeah.
after they were closed down that a local attorney woman stepped up and actually helped these people out, and she wound up actually having to go to prison for it. It was a really a bizarre story,
Wow.
and it really was a well-controlled scandal, and Fred was able to get the perpetrator of this fraud caught and punished because he was doing
Good.
some other illegal things that once Fred knew what was going on, he set wheels in motion to get this guy busted, which he did.
Good.
And
Yeah. He
that's,
deserves
that's
it.
one of the most powerful stories in the book, Secrets of a Hollywood Private Eye. Is one that I was very happy to work with him on. It's the only
Mhm.
story in the book that isn't told in the first person. It's told in, I narrate the story about him instead of him. It's
Yeah.
just a mind boggling because it's just people didn't know, realize that this guy was a fake name, wasn't even an attorney.
Oh,
It was just
yeah.
amazing.
But at least he had the insight to check it out and investigate it because if he didn't, if he wasn't involved, nobody would have known. Or I
The
mean,
first
maybe
tip off,
eventually.
the first clue that Fred had that there was something wrong was the first thing the guy says to him is, I was an operative agent of the CIA. Well, Fred had worked a lot with operative agents of the CIA, and they don't tell you that's what they do.
Right. And oh god, that sounds like a pickup line at a
They
bar.
don't tell you agent of the CIA probably isn't. They'll tell you
Yeah.
they're weather, uh, you know, meteorologist for the local TV station or something. So right away, the guy was full of crap,
Yeah.
and he was.
Wow. Now, did he ever get involved with like a celebrity that hired him and realize like this celebrity is doing illegal thing? I mean, like for instance, like right now in the news, we're dealing with P. Diddy. Like, did he have a case that was something similar to that, where other than saving the children and stuff, but did he like start digging and realize, oh, I don't want
Always,
to be involved with this?
he is credited with saving Groucho Marx's life. I'm sure you've heard of
Groucho?
Groucho Marx, the famous
Oh,
comedian.
I love Groucho.
Well, he was very fond of you also. He mentioned you a lot in his final days. Uh, he got a
I
call
love Groucho.
to go to Groucho's. This is when there was a battle on who was going to have the conservatorship of Groucho in his elderly years. His son was
Yeah,
battling against Aaron Fleming, who was supposedly Groucho's secretary.
yeah.
Supposedly, Groucho had had a stroke. Groucho hadn't really had a stroke. She had shot up Groucho on Nebutol, which mimicked the stroke. Fred knew this because he went for a walk outside the house and noticed something stuffed in a drain pipe. And he pulled it out, and there were the hypodermic needles and the Nebutol. Amazing.
Oh my god.
And he's told me that she would mistreat him so horribly. She'd throw his food on the floor and say, "Go and eat it like a dog." And poor Groucho would get down his hands and knees and eat the food off the floor.
Oh
And if
god. No. Groucho.
And so he was supposed to be hired by Aaron Fleming, and he told her an interesting trick she could do it at up a rope and testified against her at the hearing.
Oh, wow. That yeah, I've heard stories of him that there was some type of elder abuse going on and that she was manipulating him, trying to gain every control of everything and leaving his family in the
Now
dust.
I'll tell you something
And
that's really kind of scary. Is at the time that the whole thing with Groucho Marx was going on, and
mhm,
this woman, Erin Fleming, had been transferring Groucho's wealth into her accounts. And he was quite wealthy, as you can imagine.
yeah,
Well, Fred has this girlfriend that he's just really hot for. He's known her a while. And he'd come home every day and tell her what Fleming was allegedly doing to Groucho's money. Fred at that
okay.
time was worth about $16 million, which the girlfriend followed all of Aaron's stuff, stripped him, married him, and then stripped him of everything, took all of his money, and left Fred essentially sleeping in his storage locker.
Oh,
She
goodness gracious.
told her everything that Fleming had done, and she did the same thing to him. Followed his,
Wha
and
Oh,
here
god.
he is, a brilliant private investigator, and you know, it was just a horrible
Yeah,
situation. His goal in his life was that sooner or later, uh, her misdeeds would catch up with her, or he would, one of the two.
mhm, yeah. Oh,
Uh,
that is
she
awful.
was a,
Oh,
that's her misdeeds, of course. Finally, you can't avoid reality of your life, you know, and no
right.
one gets out of here alive. And have a Brinks truck follow your coffin to the graveyard.
Right. Well, we
And
gotta take a quick break. When we come back, kind of want to delve into like, did he ever have any kind of cases where he was dealing with murder, you know, specific type of kidnapping, something that was famous, like think, the Limber baby. I know he wasn't around back then, but something of that stature. So we'll talk about that after the break. And we'll discuss more about the book. Again, we're talking about Secrets of Hollywood's Private Eye, a rollicking, no holds barred expose on Tinseltown. And the author I have is my guest, Burl Barer, who is a written Edgar Award winning author. And you've written so many books on true crime. Not only that, but you've written for like USA Today and things like that, along with contributing, being a commenter on some of these documentaries as well. So we'll kind of follow up with all that right after the break. Attention, all you true crime lovers, the wait is over. Mysteries, Mayhem, and Merlot merch is officially here. If you love murder, mystery, and a good glass of wine, now you can wear your obsession with our exclusive collections of tees, hoodies, and more. From Talk Crimey to Me to I'm Only Here for the Alibi, we've got the perfect designs to sip and sleuth in style. Now, I'm only getting started. So what are you waiting for? Head over to mysteriesmayhemandmerlot.net and click the merch tab at the top of the page and get to sleuthing. Don't just get your fix by listening to true crime. It's time to start wearing your obsession too. And we're back from the break. I have my guest, Burl Barer, the author of Secrets of a Hollywood Private Eye, a rollicking, no holds barred expose on Tinseltown. And before the break, we were just kind of talking about um, uh, the cases that Fred Wolfson was hired to do as a private investigator for the stars, even for like elite people. People had money, things like that. But did he ever have to, deal with actual true crime like murder? Did he realize that there was a cover up somewhere when somebody was murdered? And because obviously this guy was a good private eye. I mean, he was a great investigator. So, was there any cases like that that he came across
well,
when somebody hired him?
he was, I don't know if it's called murder, but a lot of financial scams, of great
Okay.
illegality, cheating people out of millions of dollars. of investors here in Hollywood. You've got a lot of stars with a lot of money, and a lot of them, most of them, at one time or another, their careers have been ripped off for incredible amounts of money.
Right.
Greta Van Stern, uh, was it Peter Coyote? Many of these people were all ripped off by the same guy, who then took the money and went to Switzerland, put money in his unnumbered bank account or whatever it was. And
Oh,
Fred gets a call, say the guy is in the country. He says he's going to come to a meeting, and we want you there to somehow catch him in a lie, a dishonesty, something. Fred has no idea what to do or what to say. He just gets his
mhm.
phone call offering him a great deal of money if
Okay.
he'll show up and do something to try to trip this guy up. So he shows up and he says, "You're accused of, such as doing it, having done this." He goes, "I have never been to Switzerland in my life. I've got my passport right here." Fred says, "Let me see it." Takes it. As you can see, there's nothing in there about Switzerland. Does anybody else who got a passport? Someone did. Says, "Sir, how many pages are in a passport?" Guy tells us 24 or whatever it is. Says, "Sir,
Uh-huh.
it only has 23 because you ripped out the page that had the Swiss stamp on it.
Oh,
That was it.
yeah, you can't.
Found
Well,
a page ripped out. That's why he couldn't find. You know,
oh
the,
my
the,
gosh.
he went crazy over it. Thought about that. How many pages does a passport have? It was one short. So there are,
Wow.
in the book, he does tell you things to watch out for. Things if you're dating somebody, do a background check.
Well, yeah, these days you have to.
That may seem like you're not very trusting, but it could make a big difference. Is the person who they say they are?
Yep.
They say they're single,
Oh,
maybe they're still married, and
right.
maybe they're like my daughter, for instance, is still legally married despite the fact that her husband deserted her uh, well over a decade ago and is living in another country with another woman. But being he's out
Oh,
of the country, very difficult to get a divorce.
yeah.
Quite often, people, not quite often, but just because someone says they're somebody doesn't mean they are.
Right.
A relative of mine in England had this situation. His daughter was dating a fellow that represented himself in a certain way, and the father just had a feeling about the guy. Did a
Okay.
background check, found out it was all complete BS. The guy was just after her
Wow.
for her money because the father was wealthy, and
Oh,
his whole identity was a fabrication. The stuff that he had was leased. He didn't own it. Rented for appearances. It was all a scam.
wow. That's
So, of
crazy. I mean,
course, I
I
had
mean,
another friend whose daughter married a fellow that she met in college.
uh-huh.
Another had a hard-working guy going to college, and he get married. And just before the wedding, he says, "Honey, I have a confession. I'm worth $18 billion." I
Oh.
did. I didn't want to tell anybody I was a multi-billionaire because I was didn't want people after me for my money. I hope you still love
Oh.
me.
Oh, wow.
You
But
guys
that,
still love.
hey, and that's commendable. I get it. Because, people are the almighty dollar, man. It can make people do some crazy things.
He was convinced that he was just a regular hard-working guy because he had a job while he was going to college to help pay his tuition. You know,
Oh,
because he wanted to
wow.
make sure no one was after him because he was so sort of wealthy. So she didn't
Yeah.
know until the day of the wedding.
Wow. Uh, I like that story. I mean, I find that very honorable and commendable of him to do that, even though it's a lie.
Yeah, the
I
bride's
get
father
it.
told me the story. He boy was he surprised when the day of the wedding.
Yeah.
My
What what in-law wouldn't be? Right? And I've been watching a lot of documentaries lately, and a couple that I've watched, like, I've listened to the podcast, but there's this one called Scamanda about this woman named Amanda Riley, and
Oh
she
yeah,
literally faked cancer and stole thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars for people sending her money for her foundation. I mean, and it's kind of sad that they're taking something that a lot of people go through and to just,
and they're
lie
so
about it.
afterwards. I mean, I'd be angry. You know.
Yeah, it's just disgusting that people do that. I'm just, and I've had a firsthand account of it as well with my kids' school. In preschool, we found out that the director of the preschool was skimming off the top and lying about cancer, and she ended up uh, taking herself out because everything got brought up and there were charges going to be pressed and she was going to have go to jail, and she decided to take a different route out. But yeah, just it's so just icky and violating to know that people do that and to con people like that. It's just ugh.
Well, then also people are quite often quick to assume, maybe because they watch a lot of those things, that people are doing that when they're not. I had
Right.
a situation like that. Uh, my my daughter was tragically kidnapped for about 10 days by a known registered sex offender. Of course, it was a horrible situation being her father when she went missing.
Yeah.
Uh, she finally traumatized. Turned out, I guess, that she was okay, but she's alive
Yeah.
and well, and she only had a few broken
Yeah.
ribs, emotional damage. But I was on a few TV shows asking for help, people looking for her, etc.
Hmm.
And there were actually people who thought it was fake, that was doing it to help buy book sales, which one has nothing to do with the other.
Oh God. I know, and it's the people that con people that way are the ones that are spoiling it for the people that actually need it, you know? And it's a hard way to verify a lot of things. But yeah, why would you fake that to boost your book? That doesn't even make sense.
Oh yeah,
You're a
let's buy it.
best-selling author.
Daughter's missing. Yeah, well, that's a very scary time period because they say the first 48 hours is the most important, but it got to be
Right,
10 days.
right.
I was really losing hope, and then all
Oh,
of a sudden, 10 o'clock at night, the phone rang. Daddy, here she was
oh,
calling me from uh, an acquaintance of ours that happened to live in the city of Portland, Oregon, which is where she turned up. She went to their home and called, and whew,
wow. That's
but I mean,
amazing.
Frank Gerardo, who was my co-author on several books, more coming out this year. He called me up and said, "Oh, guys, I can just imagine, this being a true crime writer, the scenarios going through your head, you know, from stuff that
Hmm.
you've written about, stuff that you've seen, it just makes it even worse, you know."
Yeah. Yeah, and
But
and and you are one of the fortunate ones that, you got your kid back. But God, yeah, the torment and just the torture of just not knowing and being in that headspace, I can't imagine what that would be like. Because, between Dave and I, we have 11 kids. It's like it, it would crush me if anything.
there's a movie that's not very good, called Men Who Stare at Goats. You
Oh,
ever heard
yes.
of Clooney, I think, in
Yes.
it? Fred was one of the men who stared at ghosts. He was in that program, Our Wise Government,
He,
teaching people distance reading for spying purposes, where you send your mind somewhere and steal the information.
yeah.
And,
It's really
and
like a
Fred
remote
had that
viewing
in
type
common,
thing.
as we
Yeah.
both had learned how to do that stuff. He did it as spycraft for the government, and I did it to learn to help people. So
Wow, that is I know it wasn't a great movie, but it's a very interesting movie, so I've watched it a couple times now. 'Cause I find it fascinating. It's that kind of weird, campy. I think did the Cohen brothers do that? I can't remember,
I didn't
but
ever get a chance to watch the entire film because I mean I learned how to do distance reading in the early '70s, and it turned out Fred had learned how to do it too because he was trained by the government as it for spying purposes. You know, because you could
that's
you know send your
amazing.
brain to the Russian embassy and open the locked drawer and take out the paper and read it and whatever. Like I said, I
Oh,
do
okay.
a lot of fake psychics who used to be real, but greed and ego would block the real abilities. If you're trying to help people, works great. If you're trying to do it
Mhm.
for selfish reasons, you lose it. And
Right,
that's where
right. One thing I wanted to find out, like with Fred, was there any one of his cases that he could not shake? Like something happened where it just really got to him, um, you know, on an emotional level? Was
well
there
the
any
one
cases
that
like that then?
was devastating to him the most was the one with his own wife.
Mhm.
Where looking for, I mean, here he is, a famous private investigator who saved Groucho's life, and then his wife does the exact same thing to him that Aaron Fleming did
Yeah,
to Groucho.
yeah,
And that,
yeah.
what that did for his self-image, as far as you know, uh, it was he could see it happen to somebody else, but he couldn't see that it was happening to him.
Well, it's just like one of those things, those who can't do teach, everybody, the carpenter's house is always a disaster while everybody's house is nice. He's looking outside and not paying attention to what's going on and realize, oh crap, my wife just told what happened to Groucho. I mean, yeah, and that would probably be very soul crushing for him. And knowing that
That,
it sounds like he was just a generally good person and just wanted to help people.
yeah, Judson Ray, who was the first FBI profiler to testify in a
Uh-huh.
homicide case. That's from my book, Murder in the Family. I believe his wife was trying to poison him or something, and she'd give him, coffee to hold in his hands so he didn't have his hand free or whatever to protect himself. Weird things like that. That he still didn't realize what was happening, you know, until he almost died. You know,
Wow.
or
It's
even Jimmy Jost, the wealthy oil guy in Texas, who Rhonda Glover shot 13 times with a Glock 9 millimeter because she believed that he and George W. Bush were having sex with clones in a cave under the house. Common problem. Uh,
what? Wait a minute. Let's roll back. Wait,
well,
she
rewind that
shot
back.
him.
Uh, that's my book, Fatal Beauty. I went to see her in
Oh,
prison. Uh, well, see, she gave me permission to get her medical records. She said, "People say I'm crazy. They say I have
uh-huh.
mental problems." Oh, really? She said, but I've never had any diagnosis like that. So she gave me permission to check. Yep, her diagnosis was psychosis NOS, not otherwise specified, because they never could keep her long enough to get a more specific diagnosis other than that she had psychosis. And
Wow.
psychosis plus a whole bunch of meth and coke is not a good combination.
Yeah.
But my
Yeah, it's
point is,
not.
every time that she would like call the cops and say, "There's bodies in the wall," and stuff like that, the cops would come and go, "Oh, it's Rhonda," you know. And they'd say
Yeah.
to her boyfriend of 15 years, who's a super nice guy, "Are you worried? Is she a danger to herself or others?" He goes, "No, I can always handle Rhonda. I'm in no danger, and neither is anyone else." Well, he was in danger because she shot him 13 times with a Glock 9 millimeter, killed him very dead because of one of her psychotic delusions.
Wow. That is scary. And that, and things like that, undiagnosed and untreated mental health, that, stuff like this happens. And yeah, it just sounds like she was not getting the proper care she needed.
Oh no,
And
if they ever prescribed medications for her, she didn't take it. And I mean, like I say, I went in and talked to her in prison, and there were a couple of times, even though there was plexiglass, between us, there were a
mhm.
couple of times I think if she could have killed me right on the spot, she would have. But she had the attention span of a goldfish. So, oh look, there's a castle. Look, there's a castle. All I had to change. All of a sudden, I would tell her if she looked at me like she looks to kill. I go, oh, I just remember you were so clever to do such and such, and I loved the way you did whatever. She just light up, and she loved me again. So I just you could change,
Oh,
change your mood that fast. But boy, if I said something, she did.
wow.
Mm,
Jeez.
very volatile.
Yeah, that's
I came
yeah, it's
out of
kind
there,
of a
prison in Texas. My daughter was waiting for me outside. My daughter was living in Pflugerville at the time, and she looked at me and said, "Dad, she's going to be in prison for another 60 some years. I think you could not worry about her getting to you quite yet." It was a little stressful.
Yeah. Yeah, that's yeah, just to know that people like that can just turn on a dime, and it's almost like it's like having a weapon in a room. You don't know when it's gonna go off. And
So,
yeah,
the,
how unnerving.
what is it, Manling Williams? It's a tragic story. She murdered her two kids, suffocated them, and then took a samurai sword to her husband. So, like 96 times slashing him with the sword till he was dead, and then sat down and wrote him a suicide note. No one's going to believe that.
Yeah, who uh, it's this isn't Harry Carey here. This isn't
That's over
how do you
90.
do that with this?
Yeah, he committed suicide. He was very depressed.
Oh
He
yeah.
attacked. Of course, it was difficult to sign the note. It was missing, but I mean, people do things that
Wow.
are so bizarre. Even motives for murder. There is a case. It's such a heartbreaking case in Tacoma, Washington, and we talk about this case in a book we have coming out this year called "Deadly Sins and Twisted Twins." It's about TV
Okay.
episodes, crime TV episodes we were on, and Frank and I were on, as, making commentary of all the motives, jealousy, rage, sexual infidelity, or greed. This fellow murdered a perfectly nice fellow simply because they disagreed on what was a better hobby, boating or flying.
That
Yeah,
that's a little over the top for not agreeing with somebody. My God. You
yeah.
just killed him because they couldn't agree on the
It's not
hobby?
a bit of rage. It was planned like an execution, and it took 9 years of dedication of the homicide detectives to track down the shotgun trail of ownership of the shotgun to lead them to the guy that they suspected did it because they asked the wife, who would kill your nice guy husband? And she gave his name to Larry Shandola. It's the only person I could think of. And he worked at the same company she did. And he'd harass her at work and make snide comments at lunch. Well, eventually, like 9 years later, they arrested him and he's in prison.
Wow.
But that was the longest investigation in Tacoma history. 9 years they worked on that case to bring him.
Yeah. But at least it got to what, it's sad that it took that long. But my God, I mean, just to take somebody out like that for nothing. I mean, really. I mean, it's say, "Oh, I don't agree with you." Bam, you're dead. I mean, come on. Although in today's society, people do that with their words on social media if you say anything. Especially when it comes to politics. I'm like, no matter what you put up for politics, you're 100% wrong because
Yeah.
there's always people that don't
Most
agree. But yeah.
about something, just facts. As Buddha said in 500 BC, the truth is not a matter of opinion. Truth can be investigated and ascertained. That's why I get
Mhm.
irritated when people say, "Speak your truth." No, there's no. Speak your opinion. You know yourself. It's truth is not very. There's not alternative facts. Truth is truth.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
relative to the
Exactly.
age in which you live, but it's factual. You can look it up.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So on
know,
and so
and it's one of
forth.
those things. I always urge my listeners, and one of the things that I take pride in is I always, when I take a case, I always try to dissect it. Okay, what are the theories pertaining to this case? And I look at all the theories, and I investigate each theory, and then I put together what I think is the most plausible answer and logical answer for myself. But, a lot of people take things for face value. And like you said, I mean, it's like a con man. You don't know who you're with. And it's the same thing when you see news and social media posts. Now, with AI generated videos,
Hey,
you can make anybody say anything. So it's like, ugh, you don't know what's fake now and what's not fake. But thank you so much, Burl, for coming on. This was fun. I mean, some of the stories were, heartbreaking but heartwarming at the end, and some were just kind of crazy. But the book that we were talking about tonight is Secrets of a Hollywood Private Eye, a rollicking, no holds barred expose on Tinseltown.
well, guys, if you want to go missing, if you want to disappear, get off the grid, he tells you in this book how to do it.
Oh, okay. So yeah, because I've been tired. I would rather just go find an island and live off the land, go off the grid, and I don't got to worry about anybody but my family and my cats. That's the that I would be happy with that.
I'm getting my passport renewed, just in case it gets too weird here or any weirder.
I know. I was in Cancun a couple weeks ago, and I was like, I don't know if I want to go home. This is kind of nice here. I'll just stay here at the resort. I will have a link for your book in today's description so people can go check that out. Check out my merch. I just put it up. I hope you all like it. If you guys have any suggestions on some merch, hey, hit me up at Mysteries Mayhem and Merlot. .net, and maybe I can make it for you. So, again, all the links are in today's program, and you also have a website as well. What's your website?
I got to do something to spruce that thing up. I paid a lot of money once upon a time to have a real nice one made, and then I lost. I got sick, I was in the hospital, and I lost burlbear.com, and I had to get burlbear.net, and
Okay.
not doing, not making me happy, but it's still there.
Oh,
Got a picture
well,
of me.
it's a way for people to find you, and I'll put your Amazon author link in today's description as well, so that way people can check out all your books because you've written a lot of books. You're a great journalist, and that's probably why Fred was like,
Buy
or
them, read
yeah, he was
them,
probably just like, you're the man.
thank you.
Now, one of the names mentioned in today's episode was Jeffrey Epstein. And yes, earlier today, the Attorney General Pam Bondi, in collaboration with the FBI, declassified publicly the release of set documents titled The Epstein Files Phase 1. Now, this release is part of an initiative to provide transparency regarding the Epstein's criminal activities, particularly the exploitation of over 250 underage girls at his residence in New York and Florida, among other locations. Yeah, 250 underage girls. Let that sink in. Declassified files primarily consist of materials that have previously been leaked but were not formally disclosed by the US government. And those key components are his flight logs, detailed records of the individuals who traveled on Epstein's private jet, often referred to as the Lolita Express. These logs have been a focal point due to the high profile names listed. Now, a redacted version of Epstein's address book, which includes names of prominent figures across various industries and documents detailing individuals employed or associated with Epstein in various capacities as well. Now, there is a comprehensive list of over 150 items collected during the investigations in Epstein's activities. Now, notably, while these documents provide insight into the associations, they do not introduce significant new information beyond what is already publicly known. Now, the release of these documents are draw attention due to the inclusion of several high-profile individuals in Epstein's contact list and flight logs. And some of those notable names mentioned are Alec Baldwin. Actors listed among Epstein's contacts, so the nature of their association still remains unclear. Michael Jackson, the late pop star icon, appears in the contact list as well, raising questions about the extent of their interaction. You have Mick Jagger. The Rolling Stones frontman is another celebrity name, but no detailed context was provided. You had Ethel Kennedy, the widow of Robert F. Kennedy, is listed, adding to the roster of political figures associated with Epstein. President Donald Trump is noted to have flown on Epstein's private jet several times between 1993 and 1994, accompanied by his then wife, Marla Maples, and his daughter Tiffany, and a nanny. Now, it is crucial to emphasize that the inclusion in these documents does not imply any wrongdoing. Many individuals listed have stated that their interaction with Epstein was limited to social or professional contact. Now, the release of this illicit information has a range of reactions. Many people of the public and media have expressed frustration over the lack of new revelation. The anticipation surrounding the release led to the expectation of uncovering more substantive information in Epstein's network and activities that we didn't know. Now, the manner in which these documents were disseminated has been a point of contention. Attorney General Bondi provided the first copy of files to a select group of right wing influencers at the White House, leading to the accusations of politicizing the release and lacking transparency. Now, the heavily redacted nature of these documents has been criticized for obscuring potentially critical information, but Bondi has stated that the redactions are necessary to protect the identities of over 250 victims associated with Epstein. And I completely understand that. Now, the Jeffrey Epstein case has been a subject of intense public interest and controversy. In 2019, his death in a Manhattan jail, ruled a suicide, occurred under circumstances that have been fueled numerous conspiracy theories and calls for further investigation. Ghislaine Maxwell, I believe that's how you pronounce her name, was convicted in 2022 for her role in facilitating the sex trafficking operations and is currently serving a 20-year prison sentence. The release of these documents, though, is seen by some as a step towards greater transparency, while others view it as insufficient in addressing the broader issue at play. Now, Attorney General Bondi has indicated that the release is merely phase one, suggesting that more documents may be declassified in the future. Now, the Justice Department is reportedly working to balance transparency with the need to protect victim identities, which may influence the extent and timing of future disclosures. Now, a newly formed congressional task force led by the Representative Anna Paulina Luna is set to investigate these files further. This task force will also delve into significant national matters, including aerial phenomenon of UFOs. So I am glad that they are going to release. Now, if anybody in those documents, any names that did anything illegal, I'm sorry, you lost your right. If there is proof that you were having sex with an underage child or abusing an underage child, you lose the right to privacy. You lose that right, and your name will get put out there. Now, we can protect the victims, and I completely understand, even though some of those victims are adults. The way the world is right now, we can't have people going after them, and that's exactly what's going to happen. So, with that being said, I'm glad that they are taking this seriously, and I'm actually more eager to see the Epstein files than I am the JFK files, which things like this need to be put out there in public so that way people know that if you get gonna get caught, things are gonna get exposed and you're gonna be standing there looking like a deer in headlights. We had the whole Heidi Fleiss thing back in the early 90s, and that was kind of the same thing too. She ran a brothel type house where she had escorts working for her, and she was kind of the first Hollywood madam. And she had everybody wanted to get into her black book and see who was all in there. But yeah, I think this I think this needs to be exposed because this has some really, important things that we need to fix with trafficking humans, whether it's for slave trade, whether it's for sexual acts, and just abusing and torturing these people. They need to be brought to the forefront and be brought to justice. So I don't know. What are your thoughts? Comment below. Do you think that the Epstein files should be unredacted? I fully agree that these documents should be released, and the only thing that should be redacted from it is the PPI, the personal and private information, like names of people who were underage at the time, any type of locations, things like that, unless they're Epstein's locations. Hang it all out there, show his dirty laundry, and that way we can put people like this in jail and give justice to their victims. So, thank you guys so much, and I hope to see you all next week. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Mysteries, Mayhem, and Merlot. And until our next case, my armchair detectives, stay safe, stay vigilant, and stay aware. I'll see you right here next week on Mysteries, Mayhem, and Merlot.